Have you ever noticed that remembering one specific person no longer feels like a choice, but slowly turns into a habit, as if your mind itself has chosen them and your heart pauses on their name without asking for permission? And psychology says that when someone creates a place in our subconscious mind, we cannot simply forget them, while spirituality says that some meetings are not coincidences, but connections formed at the level of the soul. And when both the heart and the mind repeatedly settle on the same person, understand that this is not just attraction, this is the kind of connection that makes its presence known to you through certain signs. Sign 1. Their thought appears. Without any reason. When you are completely normal, not thinking about them on purpose, not reminded by anything specific, yet suddenly their name, face, or voice appears in your mind, psychology says this happens because your subconscious mind has started associating them with emotional safety. And the human brain repeatedly brings back only those people who make it feel calm and secure. Sign 2. You start seeing them in everything around you. You listen to a song and feel like it was written for them. You watch a scene and it reminds you of them. You visit a place and wish they were there with you, because psychology explains that when someone becomes emotionally important, the mind starts projecting them onto everyday experiences, turning ordinary moments into emotional reminders. Sign 3. You worry about them. Even without a relationship, you find yourself wondering whether they are okay, whether they ate properly, whether their day went well, even though you have no official relationship with them. And psychology says when concern appears without ownership or obligation, it is a silent sign that emotional attachment is growing deeper. Sign 4. Talking to them instantly makes you feel lighter, no matter how heavy your day feels or how cluttered your mind is. The moment you talk to them, even briefly, you feel lighter inside. Because psychology explains that the person who calms your nervous system slowly becomes your emotional home. Sign 5. Their happiness starts feeling more important than yours. You begin wanting them to be happy, even if that happiness does not involve you. And psychology clearly separates attraction from attachment here, because attraction seeks personal satisfaction, while attachment finds peace in the happiness of the other person. Sign 6. You remember the smallest details about them. What they said casually, what they like or dislike, the way they reacted to certain moments, all these small details stay effortlessly stored in your mind. Because psychology says when someone becomes emotionally significant, the brain prioritizes their details and protects those memories. Sign 7. The thought of losing them creates restlessness. When imagining a life where they are no longer present makes you uncomfortable or restless, psychology says your emotional brain has already placed them in the category of loss. And when someone becomes emotionally necessary, rather than optional, their absence starts to feel heavy. Sign 8. You stop trying to change them. You see their flaws clearly, yet feel no urge to fix or change them. Instead, you try to understand them, because psychology explains that when attachment matures, control disappears, and acceptance takes its place, which is a strong indicator of deep emotional connection. Sign 9. You frequently drift into memories related to them. Without realizing it, your mind revisits old conversations, shared moments, or even imagined scenarios involving them. And psychology says the brain repeatedly returns to memories that give emotional comfort, especially when someone has become a safe emotional space. Sign 10. You naturally start imagining them in your future. Without pressure or planning, you begin imagining small future moments with them, how certain situations would feel if they were present, how life might look with their presence. And psychology says when the brain places someone into future emotional scenarios, that connection is no longer temporary. Sign 11. You move beyond possession and fear of loss. When you no longer feel the urge to possess them, nor live in constant fear of losing them, but instead sincerely wish well for them, whether they stay in your life or not, psychology and spirituality both say this is the stage where attachment becomes pure, peaceful, and deeply meaningful. Sign 12. You feel emotionally drawn to them, even in silence. Even when there is no conversation, no message, and no interaction, You still feel emotionally connected to them, and psychology says this happens when the brain has already formed an internal emotional bond, where presence is no longer required for connection because the mind has learned to feel them even in their absence. Sign 13. Your mood gets affected by their energy. Your mood lifts when they are happy and drops when they seem distant or low, even without them saying anything directly. And psychology explains that when someone becomes emotionally significant, your emotional regulation subtly starts syncing with theirs, making their energy influence yours. Sign 14. You compare others to them without realizing it. Without consciously trying to, you begin comparing other people's behavior, words, or emotional depth to them. And psychology says this occurs when your mind has already set an emotional benchmark, using that person as a reference point for connection and comfort. Sign 15. You feel understood by them more than most people. You feel like they understand you without you needing to explain everything. And psychology states that this sense of being emotionally seen creates a powerful attachment, because the human brain deeply bonds with those who make it feel understood rather than judge. Sign 16. You replay conversations with them in your mind. You often find yourself replaying past conversations, analyzing their words, tone, or pauses, not out of confusion, but because your mind finds emotional meaning in those interactions. And psychology explains that the brain revisits moments that made it feel emotionally alive or safe. Sign 17. You feel a quiet sense of belonging with them. You don't feel the need to impress them or prove anything. Instead, you feel a calm sense of belonging. And psychology says when someone makes you feel at home emotionally, without pressure or performance, it is a sign that the connection has moved beyond attraction into emotional attachment. Sign 18. You feel safe sharing your vulnerable side with them. You find yourself opening up about fears, insecurities, or emotions that you usually keep hidden. And psychology says this happens when the mind senses emotional safety, because vulnerability only appears where the brain feels protected rather than judged. Sign 19. Their absence feels noticeable, even in busy moments. Even when life keeps you busy and your mind occupied, there is still a quiet awareness of their absence. And psychology explains that when someone becomes emotionally integrated into your mental space, their presence or absence is felt regardless of external distractions. Sign 20. Thinking about them feels calm, not chaotic. Instead of emotional confusion or anxiety, thinking about them brings a sense of calm, grounding, and inner stillness. And psychology says this calmness is a sign that the connection is rooted in emotional security rather than emotional dependency, making it one of the deepest indicators of a meaningful bond. If someone keeps returning to your mind without effort, if their presence feels calming rather than overwhelming, and if thinking about them has quietly become a habit instead of a decision, psychology reminds us that this is not random, and spirituality whispers that some connections are meant to be felt before they are explained. So instead of questioning why this person appears in your thoughts, listen to what your heart feels when they do, because not every bond is meant to be chased. Some are simply meant to be recognized. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.